Dear students, today we are going to discuss first chapter of Indian economic development, that is Indian economy on the eve of independence. So, in this chapter, you will find out that first we have to talk about, that is, what is an economy. When we say Indian economy, what do you mean by economy? So, economy of a country includes all production, distribution, or all the economic activities that relate with people and determines the standard of living. In other words, we can say it is the system by which people earn their living. There are so many ways of describing this economy. You can also say economy is a structure or framework within which all the economic activities of a country can be described. Now we are coming to Indian economy on the eve of independence. On the eve of independence, Indian economy was in a very bad condition, and that was due to the exploitative policies of the British colonial rule. Whatever economic policies the colonial government in India pursued, those policies focused more on the protection and promotion of the economic interest of their home country rather than the development of Indian economy. And India's national per capita income under colonial rule. If we say national income and per capita income of India, there were no efforts from the part of the colonial government to measure the national per capita income of India. But some individual attempts were made to measure such incomes. But those results, they produced very conflicting and inconsistent results. If we say the contribution of V.K. R.V. Rao and Dadabhai Naroji were considered very significant in this context, and most studies found that the country's growth of aggregate real output during the first half of the 20th century was less than 2%, coupled with a meager 0.5% growth in the per capita output per year. This was the condition of national income and per capita income, which reflects the development of the economy. And when we are coming to agriculture, so one by one we'll be discussing agriculture, industrial sector, infrastructure also. When we are coming to agricultural sector, you see agriculture was the main source of livelihood for most of the people of India. Near about, you can say, 75% of the population lived mostly in villages, and they derived directly or indirectly their livelihood from agriculture. And if we say Indian agriculture at the time of independence, what we have seen, that there was low level of productivity, high degree of vulnerability, land revenue system, particularly zamindari system, that caused a lot of misery and social tension among the cultivators, small farmers, a large number of tenants, and sharecroppers neither had resources nor technology to invest in agriculture. Indian agriculture was starved of investment in flood control, drainage terracing, and desalination of soil. And that time also you will see that commercialization of agriculture hardly improved the economic status of the farmers, because agriculture was commercialized by the colonial government, but that hardly improved the economic status of the farmers. This was the state of agricultural sector at the time of independence. Now we are coming to industrial sector. Britishers followed a policy of systematic deindustrialization by creating circumstances conducive to the decay of handicraft industry and not taking any steps to promote modern industry, and reduced India to a mere exporter of raw material and importer of finished goods. If we see the following points, will indicate that how the state of industrial sector was there on the eve of independence. There was a decline of handicraft industry. There was a slow growth of modern industry. No sound industrial base was created. Hardly any capital goods industries were there to promote further industrialization. And the role of public sector was limited to railways, power generation, communication, ports, etc. This was the state of industrial sector on the eve of independence. Now we are coming to state or features of foreign trade. India has been an important trading nation since ancient times. But when the restrictive policies of commodity production, trade, and tariff were imposed by the colonial government, it adversely affected the structure, composition, and volume of India's foreign trade. Now we are coming to the what are the reasons behind the poor growth of foreign trade. Exporter of primary products and importer of finished goods. Means India was the exporter of primary products and importer of finished goods. And Britain's monopoly control over India's foreign trade. Over India's foreign trade, Britain had the monopoly. And whatever large export surplus came, that was at a huge cost to the economy because it was used to meet the expenses on war and for the import of invisible items by the colonial government. This was the state of foreign trade. If we come to occupational structure, during the colonial period, the occupational structure of India exhibited backwardness. Agricultural sector accounted for the largest share of the workforce and that remained at a high of 70 to 75% of the workforce. Manufacturing sector was only for 10% and service sector accounted 15 to 20%. There was decline of workforce on the agricultural sector and increase in the manufacturing and service sector in Madras Presidency. Madras Presidency means during that time Tamil Nadu, Kerala, Karnataka, Andhra Pradesh, they were coming under Madras Presidency and Bombay and Bengal. At the same time, there had been an increase in the share of workforce in agriculture in the states such as Odisha, Rajasthan, and Punjab. This was the occupational structure of our economy on the eve of independence. Come to infrastructure. Infrastructure comprises such industries which help in the growth of other industries. Under the colonial period, basic infrastructure such as railways, ports, water, air transport, post and telegraph, they were developed. Roads were built to serve the purpose of mobilizing army within India and drawing out raw materials from the countryside to the nearest railway stations or the ports to send them far away England. Means roads were built, but for that was to draw out the raw materials from the countryside to the nearest railway station and from or to the ports so that from that place they will be sent to England. Introduction of railways affected the structure of Indian economy in two ways. Cultural and geographical barrier were broken because people were able to travel long distances. Geographical barrier, cultural barrier, they were broken. And introduction of railways fostered commercialization of agriculture, which adversely affected the self-sufficiency of village economy. There was self-sufficiency of the village economy that was adversely affected due to commercialization of agriculture, and that commercialization of agriculture, introduction of railways helped in the commercialization of agriculture. We are coming to now demographic condition. Various details about the population of India. British India were first collected through a census in 881. Means first official census which was conducted in British India, that was in 1881. And before 1921, India was in the first stage of demographic transition, and second stage started after 1921. Neither the total population of India nor the rate of population growth at this stage was very high, but overall mortality rate was high, especially infant mortality rate, which was 218 in contrast to present 40. Life expectancy was very low, that was 44 years in contrast to present 68 years. The overall literacy was less than 16% and female literacy was as low as 7%. Public health facilities were either unavailable or when available was highly inadequate. Water and airborne diseases were rampant and took a huge toll on life. This was the you can say